right. So I think my screen is being shared. Okay, so welcome to the virtual talk, Words as Pictures and Pictures as Narrative. This talk is the second in a series of 3 artist talks for the exhibition Night Circus, a George traveling exhibition coordinated by the Guild of Bookworkers that features 31 exhibitors. This show is now on view at the Robert C. Williams Museum of Papermaking in Atlanta, Georgia through April 18th. Just a quick note that the Robert C. Williams Museum is located on the Georgia Institute of Technology campus. And our mission is to collect, preserve, increase, and disseminate knowledge about papermaking, past, present, and future. And I'm going to click right through to do our introductions. There we go. All right. So tonight we'll be hearing from Nancy Leavitt, Esther Kibby, Suzanne Moore, and Judith Hoffman in that order, as they discuss their approaches to content creation and communication via words and/or imagery. After all the presentations, the floor will be open for questions. Please submit all questions to the Q&A button and reserve the chat for making observations or comments or sharing resources. It makes it easier for us to find your questions if you put them in the Q&A. I'm going to read all of the bios and then turn it over to Nancy. So Nancy Ruth Leavitt is a lettering artist with degrees in both biology and art. She researches and writes text for her books, which encompassing the multidisciplinary studies of science, literature, and art. Her work is represented in many public and private collections around the world. Nancy is a recipient of the Mary Ann Hartman Award given to Maine women for their work achievement, spirit, and zest for life. She is a member of the New England chapter of the Guild of Bookworkers. Esther Kibby is a design binder, book artist, printmaker, and photographer. She received her MFA from Texas Women's University, where she studied photography, graphic design, and book arts. She experiments with combining unique materials and bookbinding structures in relationship to content concept. Her bookbindings and artist books have exhibited in various North American venues. She is a Guild of Bookworkers member and serves as communications chair for the Lone Star chapter. Suzanne Moore was born to a family of gifted inventor engineers and raised in post-Sputnik Middle America with aptitudes in math and science. Suzanne was channeled into those fields at an early age. She made her way into the world of art making at 20-something and earned a BFA in printmaking and drawing, followed by years of study in the lettering world. Moore is a painter, printmaker, and lettering artist whose eclectic interest meld in the diversity of her artist books. Suzanne weaves word and painted image with form, content, and structure into spaces which invite the reader to engage, examine, and inquire. Her books blend abstract and representational imagery, rich color and surface treatments with textual content and contemporary lettering to create work that obscures the line between word and image, legibility and abstraction. And last but not least, Judith Hoffman is a book and collage artist who grew up thinking art was comic books. A few paintings by her uncle and NC illustrations in books. She took a lot of drawing classes in art school, but switched to small metals for her MFA. For years, she made small books and jewelry with copper and brass. Eventually, she got tired of the limits of metal, and in 1998 she went back to paper, which has more nuance. Her artist books have been included in a number of books, including 500 handmade books by Steve Miller and 1,000 artist books by Sandra Salamani and Peter and Donna Thomas. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand it over to Nancy.
All right.
There.
Okay, thank you, Jerusha, for the opportunity to share my work this evening at the Museum for Papermaking at Georgia Institute of Technology for tonight's discussion of words as pictures and pictures as narrative. Oh, could you move to the next slide, please? Before we start, I would like to give a shout out to Pietra and Arthur Leavitt, my great niece and nephew who live here in Atlanta, Georgia. Your conscious brain, your ego, makes up only 10% of your brain activity. Your subconscious is 90% of your brain function and contains your dreams and imagination. Like the underbelly of an iceberg, it is invisible, but alive and still working. Robert A. Johnson wrote in his book, Inner Work, "We have to recognize that dreams are intricate tapestries of symbolism, and each image represents something going on within our own selves." Next slide, please. This is the book and the box. The inspiration for Animal Tapestry comes from a collection of dreams I had about animals. The book contains an introduction followed by 4 hand-lettered excerpts from my dream journals on the theme of animals at night. Having ample pages at the beginning and ending of a book gives the reader time to get into and out of the space and story. These painted pages evoke the many colors of the night sky and give a hint of what is to come. In this book, I used handmade Bodleian papers, vintage, Katie McGregor's handmade paper. She's a paper maker here in Maine, and Arches textile wool for the heavily painted pages. Next page. The title page, Animal Tapestry, is followed by the introduction. Next slide, please. Because I am a calligrapher, the text is usually where the initial idea for a story begins. Here, the introduction acts as a key to the secrets found in the book. Next. What happens in between the lettered pages is an important part of the story. Not only does it separate each dream, but it encourages the reader to slow down, to turn the page and continue the story. Next. This is the first dream, Midnight, a Pack of Wolves. I approached the challenge of words and pictures by using a technique called illumination, which means to bring light to. It is a way of enriching text without completely drawing out the content of that text. Next. What do calligraphers do in their spare time? They draw letterforms. These modern capitals are made with multiple strokes. The painted paper background sets the midnight stage for the dancing animals, their story made prominent by the white lettering. Next. Now we're turning into the second dream. Next slide. I stepped into a field. In each of the 4 dream pages, a painted paper background is used. The closely spaced white lettering floats above the field of color, giving the reader a little more visual space to imagine the story. Next slide, please. Even though the lettering is the same throughout the book, I had a lot of options in color and layout choices to make the pages varied, but also similar enough so that the reader would know that they are in the same story. Next slide. This is the folded page moving into the third dream. Next page. Twilight in the garden. I laughed when I woke from this dream. If ever there was a dream for a calligrapher, this is it. Could you move to the next slide, please? Twilight in the circle garden. A cenobium of monks chant the alphabet. Letters fall and scatter on the earth. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. They keep going on. Okay, and then after that dream, this is the page spread before the 4th poem. Okay, next slide, please. Not only do lettering artists draw letters in their spare time, they are fond of interesting sounding and spelled words. In this book, each dream has a word to describe a different group of animals: a pack of wolves, a troop of monkeys, a cenobium of monks, and here, an eclipse of moths. Move to the next slide, please. Here you can see eclipse of white moths and just a snippet of the painted paper to the right. And then the next page. Now heading into the colophon and leading back through the night papers out of the book. Next slide. Our minds are like icebergs, where the largest and very important part is hidden. I hope that this book inspires you to think about your dreams and how they might inform your waking life. Sometimes there are puzzling messages which startle you awake, like the dream I had when I spoke to the psychoanalyst Carl Jung about a troublesome neighbor. Dr. Jung shrugged his shoulders and said, well, he had a strawberry daiquiri and 2 scrambled eggs for breakfast. Thank you for your attention.
Hello, I'm Esther Kibby from Dallas, Texas, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the process on my Night Circus Artist book. Anamnestica is based on childhood experiences tracing star paths with my father. As a small child with my father, during our trips to the circus, we rode the Ferris wheel and I listened to stories of Greek constellation, imagining mythical beings. Now, as an adult, I associate circuses with star constellations. The end sheets are purple-toned paste paper behind cut panels, setting the stage for the story and its mood. I decided on 11 paired circus characters with constellations: the magician with Lepus, the snake charmer with Hydra, the aerialist with Cygnus, performing bear with Ursa and Major and Minor, the lion tamer with Leo, the knife thrower with Andromeda, strong man with Hercules, conjoined twins, the Gemini, the trick horse riders with Pegasus, and the fire breather with the Phoenix, and last, the fortune teller with the Corona Borealis. I also realized I needed to have both images and narrative for the book. So the book has 3 double panel spreads associated with the 3-ring circus, hand-cut designs backed with pale gold paste paper. This is the Trick Riders with the Pegasus constellation. It is meant to be interactive. The constellation discs are pulled from pockets from viewing. Then there are 8 single panels of sideshow circus performers. These are backed with white Tyvek paper. The facing page is an abstract orbit design print, organized in pairs spaced between double spread panels. Each constellation disc is a memento inspired by circus posters, and when held to the light, the star paths can be seen through drilled holes. The designs were inspired from several sources. The Thais shadow puppet theater used to tell a story with musicians. Colonial silhouette portraiture. The hand-cut panels became a story within a story. The circus performers held a single narrative that expands into a larger narrative, like Lotte Reniger's 1926 animation, The Adventures of Prince Ahmed. So I had a 9-month timeline to conceptualize, troubleshoot, write, produce, assemble. There were lots and lots of design sketch versions with repeated editing for structural integrity. The abstract orbit pattern for the facing pages is a woodcut on MDF board, shellacked for waterproofing, printed with Payne's Gray Akua ink. I used the print orientation paired with the single cut panel sketches between the double spread panels. This is the right hand sketch panel for the single. This is the left hand sketch panel. So this was folded with Tyvek paper lining. I also constructed a rough book model made from Xerox copies for testing. And I planned on using the butterfly stitch on stubs with attached panels. So I found this problem of facing panels with only woodcut prints, and it caused a disrupted visual flow with no engagement. So my solution was to write narrative prose, connecting characters, constellations to my personal experience to fill in the blank spaces. So with the problem solved, I now begin my production. Lots of cutting, days and nights of cutting, editing to simplified designs through the cutting stage. I use pearlescent acrylic ink with Jin Sothu paste for paste paper on the Tyvek. Applied color layering, combined with saran wrap lifts to create a nebula pattern. Goat parchment discs are laser cut and hand painted with watercolors and acrylic inks. I used a Stonehenge 250 GSM paper for the stub, spine, print, and panels. The pockets for the constellation discs are constructed and added to those panels. The star paths are drilled into the disc illustrations. The discs are lined with gold fiber paper for light filtering when held. The single character panels are adhered to the stubs. The double spread panels had prints added to the recto sides for stub attachment. There are 4 vellum prose panels added between the woodcut prints. Short poems correspond with 11 circus scenes with constellations. 2 poems for single circus scenes on the verso side, 1 poem for the double spread scene on the recto side. And in closing, the final prose poem titled Mementos gives the book its name. From childhood stories, wonder emerges, reaching for the stars and remembering. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from Suzanne.
Thank you, Jerusha, for organizing this. And I understand that it will be on YouTube, so people that haven't had a chance to join us tonight will be there. Thank you for that. I'm going to tell you about my book, Dreamings, Book 2. And Nancy and I have been friends for decades, and I've always been envious of her rich dream life and wondered what I could do to, encourage dreams that I could remember. And it just hasn't happened. So, as part of a series of books about that include questions inspired by Pablo Neruda's Book of Questions and by Rilke's passage in Letters to a Young Poet about living the questions and loving the questions, I decided to make a question book that was all about dreams. And this is actually the second one. I did a previous one that lives in a collection in the UK. And I so enjoyed the process of imagining dreams that this is what came out of it. So this is the inside of the box, and with paste paper and a cave handmade paper in a color that I enriched with red, and then there's little bits of tooling, hand tooling. Because I think of dreams as being part of kind of a netherland, something that as we all experience, a space between spaces that are more familiar or more definable. So color and movement as you go through the book is really important. Because the dreams have dimension and are experiential, I worked with Sumi ink on Arches text wove paper, and also with white gesso in a squeeze bottle, and with matte mediums to create kind of a masking, almost a batik-like look. And so I started out on white paper, black Sumi ink, and white on white, and then the color came later. So this is the lead in, and this is the first page spread where the movement that you see on the back of the page is created with those same materials. So gesso, matte medium, and Sumi ink to give a feeling of kind of a movement that's much larger than the page itself. And what you see with the writing is a translucent, a very, very thin, strong Japanese paper called Tosa Usushi. And I size it so that it becomes even more translucent. And one is able to gild, write, paint on it without it just becoming, blotter-like as most Japanese papers that are unsized might be. So on a trip to Australia, one of the things that we did was stop at an ochre pit. So one of the questions about ochre was, do the richest Australian ochres deep in the earth dream of basking in brilliant sunlight? But of course, you see the first three lines, do the richest Australian ochres deep, on read write. And what you're seeing is the back of the paper where I've written the rest of the question. So the Japanese paper acts kind of like a veil between the world of waking and dreaming. And here you can see with that Japanese paper turned to the right, and then when it's turned to the left, you see the back side of the paper. And it's a way that you can play with where our experience is happening. Is it happening on one side or the other side of this waking, dreaming state? and the thinness of the paper. And because there's just one sheet, I accomplished this by making the painting for each of the panels and then cutting it, inserting the single sheet of sized paper, and then reconnecting the painting to make it go as if the page just appeared out of the folded spine. And the whole idea of light and color and action in the dream, you see, kind of continues here. And one of the questions I came up with if captive creatures were freed, would they ever imagine captivity for others?
Mm.
And there you see with the page turns. So you can see that the translucency of the paper allows the reader to see the whole image, but not in the same focus. So it's almost like it's layered behind a veil, as I mentioned before. Was it a twilight vision that led to Rothko's black paintings glowing with amethyst and garnet? If you've never seen the series of black paintings that Mark Rothko did for the Dominial Chapel in Houston, Texas, it is a truly moving experience. It's really extraordinary. And this much lighter, bluer page continues, you'll see at the end of the book, and it has a different set of questions. If a magician could make herself disappear, in what dimension would she conjure a future? And does pink dream of becoming magenta, or vice versa? So that's what the page turning looks like. And the little rectangles that you see on this side of the page are a way that I could strengthen the edge of the page and make it easier to turn and not just glue it down. So they act like almost like little locks or little not pins, but you know, a little tab that glues that edge down so that I don't have to put glue between the sheets of paper and, you know, make it not look so lovely. So they're little tiny pieces of paper that are painted red, and then the gold leaf is put on in kind of a broken way so that the red shows through. And this sheet that you see, the edge on the right, is created partially by the effect by folding the paper, either while it's dry or when you've already dampened it. So the arches text wove in the right-hand side, you can see how that surface is quite granular. And when you fold the paper before you before you add a layer of color to it, and you flatten it back out to do the paste paper on it, it catches the color in a very particular way. And here you see less of the black, much lighter, brighter, kind of airborne palette, and but a little bit of the white gesso with the squeeze bottle, and then bits of fluid acrylic in it, and tiny bits of hand tooling up here. And those are subtle in these pictures. You can't really tell that much about them. And then that last panel that you see here wraps around to the back, and with the idea, you know, conceptually that the dreams kind of spill into life and vice versa. So thank you very much for having me be part of this. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you so much.
My book is called I Prefer to Go Out in Disguise. And I'm using some techniques like, adjust my page a bit here, like blind contour drawing for the figures. The background, this background is jelly printed,
Judith,
and of course,
I'm-
collage with comic book images. This is my work area. And it's always messy like this. And I like it messy like this. When I cleaned up last summer, I wasn't able to work for a couple of weeks until I realized I just needed to have some things here because all these random things kind of come together and give me new ideas. There's something very fertile about having the mess for me. This is a page I've been working on. These are the blind contour drawings here. And this figure in the middle, his legs are way behind where the body is, which is one of the things I like about the blind contour. This is my jelly plate area, and I'm mixing some paint here with some glazing medium. I'm trying to get a really thin, light layer of paint. There it is on the jelly plate. And this is a stencil that I use. This is the one I used for the book. And I like this because it suggests strange clouds to me or something. It's sort of, I don't know, it's just sort of strange. So if I pull a print directly from that, I get these shapes, kind of stone shapes or something, which is not very inspiring to me. But this is the ghost print. After the stencil's removed, there's a ghost print here, which is very I like that. I don't know. Sometimes you just like things, right? And this area was not printed from, so it kind of suggests geological stones under the earth or something. Both those pages seem like they will be very good to work on. The other technique I'm using for backgrounds is leaf printing or eco dyeing. And I take a stack of pages, you can see them on the right, and layer leaves in between all of the pages. I tie them up in a really tight bundle. I need to have some pressure on the pages. And I put them in this big pan, and I put in enough hot water to cover it and 2 or 3 tea bags. After a couple of days, I start checking to see if the paper is getting toned from the tea, and I can see it here in this corner. So when I open it up, the leaves are kind of wet, need to be peeled off, but you can see how the paper's been toned. And here, after the leaves are removed, this is what I get. You can see a slight leaf pattern here, but what I'm really aiming for is some very vague shapes that resemble a lot of different things. For example, there might be a face up here or here. It's a little hard to see on the wet paper. Every process that I use is aimed to set up something that will be inspiring and create an idea for me. I cannot approach these books with an idea in mind. I have to have something triggered in my unconscious. And so all these processes will do that. These are some eco-dyed pages. The one on the upper left is really too dark. This one is kind of interesting, but possibly too dark. These two, though, I see a kind of head here and an arm, a body and legs. And up here, I see a face. I see other faces in here, and possibly arms or something. So these things just help me along with what I'm trying to do. This is a blind contour drawing. Blind contour is when you're looking at the object and you don't look at your paper. So all these interesting, strange things happen with like the eye and the side of the face not being lined up. Normally I would hatch in here some, but I try to not put too much hatching in them because the papers I use are translucent and I want the background to show through. This is a bird splat from the street, and this is a drawing I did inspired by the bird splat. It's just another way to get something that comes up out of my unconscious instead of something I have to conceive of. Oh, I thought I missed a page. So this is probably an ordinary drawing, a blind contour drawing on the right. And this is a bird splat. This is one of the pages in the book. And these are drawings that I have laid out because I thought I would use them in a book. So I have to cut them out and have them laid out so I can kind of see them above my messy paper, my messy work table. And so the light colored drawings are on some Abaca paper. It's 9 GSM. It works really well if I coat it with matte medium. It becomes somewhat translucent, and I've been working with it a lot. It's really great. The yellow paper is an architect's tracing paper, which it also works, but I'm starting to move away from it. It's both the papers are very strong when they're wet, so they're working really well, like on the jelly plate or whatever. The other things that inspire me are the comic books, of course. These are the Sunday Funnies from years ago. Some of these go back to the 70s. Comic books are wonderful. If I've cut something out and don't use it, it has to go into this box so that I don't lose it. And this is a page in progress. I chose these two images to go together because they have similar shapes here. I liked the relationships between the shapes and the hand, the spikiness of the hand and the spikiness of the hair work together. And of course, I had to put hands in the border because there's a hand there. This is one of the pages in the book. The same techniques here, blind contour drawing, and this is the jelly plate printed background. So, oh, and this is I love this page. These clouds, I just really like the color and everything here worked well. So that's it. Thank you very much. This has been a great thing for me. Thanks.
Thank you so much, all of you, for pulling back the curtain and letting us see some of your process and thinking in putting together the books that are featured in the Night Circus exhibition. We are going to open the floor to questions. Let's see. So someone asked, will the exhibit be viewable online? And yes, the Guild of Bookworkers has links to each artist that's highlighted in the exhibition, and the Paper Museum has a link to the Guild of Bookworkers. And I don't have it up yet, but I will be adding installation shots of what the work looks like in our space on the paper.gatech.edu. There's a question for Suzanne. It says, what is that Japanese paper again, and how do you make it translucent?
It's Tosa Usushi, and Linda Marshall has it at Washi Papers in Washington State, and the the varnish I have been using for probably a decade or more is not made by Golden at this point because they can't get one of the components to make it. So it was a satin picture varnish that I watered down dramatically. If you don't need to write on it, which requires a really, really fine surface. If you don't need to write on it with really fine writing, you can water down other mediums. You can water down some of the golden GAC fluid mediums, or gloss medium's a little bit hard to water down, but fluid matte medium you could use and add a little bit of gloss to it. It took a lot of experimentation, and depending on your use, it will vary. But some kind of a polymer that is very, very, very fluid, like just barely more than water. I've got a pesky fly here.
I found it interesting, or I guess I should say I was a bit surprised, Judith, at like where the images get generated, you know, like the birds flat uh so are you constantly generating uh like textures, um and then when you get enough textures or sketches that you feel relate to one another, then okay, now it's time to make the book? Or are you going into it with some uh like I'm gonna make this number of things, and having or do you ever approach it where you're going in with a specific subject matter that's kind of informing the shapes that you're pulling out of um, your textures?
Um, you know, I have boxes, like I have a lot of these tray kind of boxes, and I've got one that's just full of drawings. When I want to start a new book, I go through and I choose a group of drawings, like on that white piece of paper, that they just appeal to me in that moment. And then I start making pages. And after I have 4 or 5 pages, I start looking for a theme between the pages to see if I can make it into a book. And then when I have a theme, I often need to go back and do more drawings that sort of coordinate with the theme. So it's a kind of back and forth.
Gotcha. Thank you. Um, and then Suzanne, the paintings, are they actually larger than the sheets that we're seeing, and you're kind of tearing down uh
In In
the
the case of this book and most books that I do, I don't trim off a lot. And the book, I believe, is 13 and a half inches high, which is a third of a sheet of Arches text wove. So I quite often work on that size. And in this case, I think those were the finished folios. And I just had this disparate, collection of painting drawings, and it made sense that since dreams can be so different, that it would work well for the dream. The first dream book, it was a little more of a continuum that I folded down into that tall format. Yeah, so very little trimming on this.
Gotcha. And Nancy, oh man, I had a question for you, and it just that quickly. 1 second, it'll come back to me. Um, oh yes, I was curious about your, like, are you keeping a journal of your dreams, or uh and is your work often inspired by your dreams, or is this book just this book specifically?
No, I've been keeping a dream journal for decades, and I still remember dreams from my childhood that I've written down. So I have a lot of dream journals, and occasionally I get them out and read through them. And oftentimes there'll be a period of time where all of the dreams are different, but they relate in some way, like either animals or color or events or something like that. And I have done several books of dreams or about dreams. I'm currently working on one now. You saw the pictures of the icebergs. I'm taking a glaciology class, and I actually had a dream about the Arctic and glaciers and icebergs. So I'm sort of working that, into the book. So yeah, I do.
And on your um, book, Nancy, the leaf and images from the natural world, were they eco-dyeing, or did you?
They aren't dyed. What I do is I paint the paper and then I put plants on it and let it dry in the sun. Or you can put glass over it or plexiglass.
Uh-huh,
So you can get really interesting combinations that way. But you can only do it when it's really hot, which is not very often here in Maine. And I noticed you had a question about nocturnal animals. When do nocturnal animals dream? I've been coming across pictures of elephant seals on little ice floes, and they're sleeping, they're curled up together and they're sleeping. And my first thought was, well, do they dream? So I did a little bit of research, and sure enough, they do dream. They don't dream when they're on their side, they dream when they're on their back. I don't know how they found that out, but somebody
Yeah.
did some research. So check those nocturnal animals.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Esther, I'm curious if you often work with paper cuts, or was it the subject matter of the book that led you to choose to do paper cuts for this?
Well, I used paper cuts because the shadow, it seemed to be both dreamlike and memory evoking. And so I was using the paper cuts in this case. I mean, I haven't really ever done a whole book out of paper cuts. This was certainly a first for me. I'm not sure I'd try it again. I wanted that hand cut. So I wanted that look like a kid had cut. So it's slightly primitive. It's not perfect. But yeah, it's supposed to, the paper cutting is supposed to be um, mysterious. And it's supposed to be the background, the kind of the tint canvas behind the posters. And then the little discs that become kind of like little mini circus posters are vivid and bright, and they pop off the page to add that extra part of the narrative to it. So yeah, they the interactive elements, because I've kind of been in the computer world for a long time as a user experience designer, things that books to me are kind of interactive, both from the imagination point of view, but also touching and pulling and exiting and all that sort of thing. So yeah, that sort of played into the experience for the book and the person viewing the book.
And then I guess we'll close out with this question for all of you. And you kind of touched on it a bit just now in your answer, Esther. Uh, what would you say to someone? What does the form, the book offer that other ways of presenting image or story or narrative don't provide? Or like, why this versus a film or something else? What is it that draws you to this kind of making?
Well, for me, I think it's the progression. You start at a place and then you end at a place, and then there's this sort of rich dialogue in between.
I call it portable architecture, Jerusha, because it's a place that you invite people to enter at their own speed, and they explore it and they interact. You know, I mean, we don't turn the pages of a building, but you go from one room to the next. And I think for me, it's all the sensual qualities, but it's a place that you can offer to people to explore.
I love that portable architecture.
Yeah.
Builds like one too.
What?
I said it builds like one too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Jerusha, I would say that the book is personal. In order to make it work, you hold it close to your body, to your heart. You capture somebody, you know, there aren't many other kinds of art pieces, maybe jewelry or something, but this is something you pick up and look at. It's mobile art, really. And it gives them an experience over time. So you can tell your story over time. You can control how fast or slow the book is read. You know, what you have for illustration. There's so many things that you can give the reader in the book. And so it's like speaking personally to someone. That's what I like about it.
Right. And Judith, you get the last word tonight.
Yeah. Well, I would have to agree with Nancy. Books are personal. You hold them in your hand. I love how books feel in the hand.
All right. Well, thank you all for being so generous with your time and knowledge and expertise. I'm going to just close out by announcing our final talk. Sorry, but the third and final talk will be on Wednesday, April 2nd. And we'll be hearing from Brenda Gallagher, Karen Hanmer, Lane Engels, and collaborative duo Gabby Cooksey and Aaron Fletcher. So I hope that you'll come back and join us on April 2nd. If you enjoyed this talk, hopefully you may consider giving a donation to help us continue to offer programs like this. And if you'd like to experience more of the Paper Museum programming, we do have a website where you can see some previous talks and recordings. We also have a YouTube channel that's not listed here, but the recordings are there as well. And we engage on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, as well as Pinterest. If you'd like to join our newsletter so you get the announcements in your email directly sent to you, please send your contact information to Anna Dahl, Anna.Doll, D-O-L-L, at rbi.gatech.edu. She's our education curator. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And we hope to see you back for the next talk. Thank you, ladies.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Jerusha.
Thank you, Jerusha.
Thank you.